NFL Live. The Raiders starting OTAs today. Of course, some Raiders were at the rookie premiere. That was a whole lot of fun. But let's get you caught up on the moves the Raiders have made to improve. Last year, a disaster with Vegas, going 4-13. Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder combined for a 40 total QBR, which ranked 30th in the league. So the Raiders bring in Pete Carroll. They traded for Geno Smith to be the QB. He'd been clutch in Seattle. He's got 11 go-ahead passing touchdowns in the fourth quarter in the last 3 seasons, 4 more than anyone else. They hope that transfers. And then Vegas added their running back in the draft, taking Ashton Jeanty, 6 overall. Vegas averaged just 3.6 yards per rush in 2024, the franchise's lowest since 1994, and that definitely figures to increase with Jeanty coming to town. You know, there's a lot to be excited about with this roster for the Raiders. What do you expect to see from them, this new look offense with the Raiders this season?
Yeah, I'm really optimistic about this Raiders offense. I love the Chip Kelly hire based on what we've seen from him lately in college. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty is going to make the run game exciting behind a dynamic offensive line. But to zero in on something in particular I'm excited about, I think Geno Smith to Brock Bowers is going to be an excellent connection. You know, over the last couple of years in Seattle, Laura, Geno Smith was 4th league-wide in passer rating, throwing to his tight ends, 2nd in completion percentage over expected, behind only Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy got to throw to George Kittle. And Geno Smith was throwing to, you know, a variety of tight ends, no one anywhere close to the caliber of what he has in Brock Bowers, who is just such a great contested catch player. Geno Smith is super aggressive, throwing over the middle of the field. I think that connection is going to be what powers this passing attack.
You mean I have to wait like a long time to see that in real life? Unfortunately, we do. Okay, I love it. I'm excited, Mina. Peter, how much of an impact will Pete Carroll have on building a new culture in Vegas?
Well, I'm fascinated to see. So I think if there's one team I would love to go see OTAs in person, it's the Raiders. And not because of my love for Vegas. I actually don't love Vegas. I think Vegas could be very negative in my life. But I will say this. The juice. Like, I remember going out to Seattle in those 2010, 2011 years, and Pete brought in yoga specialists and brought in, the basketball hoop. Let's have competition, compete. Stuff we had never seen in the NFL before. Pete was 62 at the time. He's 74 now. What type of juice does Pete have? And I'm encouraged from what I'm hearing, like talking to the people in Vegas, that Pete's never been more excited. It's all positive. It's all winning the day. Can he still connect with 21, 22, 23-year-old men despite being 50 years older than them? I wouldn't doubt it, but I would love to see it firsthand. And, Mina mentioned Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, this is not a charity. They're paying Chip Kelly like $6 million a year to be offensive coordinator. Like, there is a lot of money invested in this thing working, both with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, and of course a new GM in John Spytek.
Yeah, I think we already have some evidence. I mean, we have video of Pete Carroll wearing receiver gloves already, out on the field. Like, I think he's already connecting. He's already, working drills. He's already doing that stuff. And I agree. Same thing when you talk about, like Chip Kelly and his influence. Like, he's there for a reason, much like Pete Carroll. Really, a lot of what, he kind of bases his stuff on is that whole compete every day mantra, the idea that you're going to think outside the box a little bit. Chip Kelly, he's notorious for we're not going to sit in meeting rooms. We're going to walk through stuff. We're going to learn on the move, because that's how people want to learn now. All that stuff. So here's what I think. I think they're the worst team in their division. They're the 4th most talented team in their division, but they're going to be a hard out for everybody that they play, because, as Peter said, the culture is going to be totally different in Las Vegas, and the competition level is going to be ratcheted up in practices, and it's going to show up on Sundays.
How many of us said that the Raiders won the coach hiring cycle this time around? It felt like they did, right? But I do believe age is only a number. I do want to point this out, though. The Raiders play the Chargers week 2 on Monday Night Football. That's September 15th. It's also Pete Carroll's 74th birthday. He'll be the first person to coach a game at age 74 in NFL history. So either way, it's historic.
Wow.
I'm sure that'll be mentioned. All right, Spring League meetings taking place tomorrow in Minnesota. Another opportunity for the owners to convene and discuss a variety of matters. As we mentioned earlier in the show, the tush push. Now, some want it banned. Others say it's part of the game. A vote that was supposed to take place last month but was tabled until now. Peter, what's the latest on that?
The expectation is Wednesday there will be a formal vote. In March, they didn't have the votes to ban it, but there's been a lot of talk and back talk through the last 2 months. Now, I'm curious to see the verbiage that's presented and if they change things back to what it was in 2004 when you couldn't push somebody who's not having the ball in their hands. This is going to be interesting because I think the NFL is now employed their doctors to really look at this thing. And Dr. Alan Sills, who is the NFL doctor, has come out and said there is an opportunity for a catastrophic injury. You hear that word, catastrophic injury, you're like, I get it. I totally get it. That said, there are a lot of teams who are still in favor of keeping the tush push as is because of what the Eagles have established, and they look at it as a competitive advantage for a well-coached, well-disciplined team. I believe the NFL league office would be just fine with never seeing a tush push again, both aesthetically and health-wise. But I also think they have to get the votes, and there has to be enough owners willing to say, you know what, you're right, we want to avoid that injury, even if there's no statistical data right now that exists.
Yeah, even when Goodell has talked about it before, Adam Schefter's alluded to this as well, Peter, kind of like what you're saying. It feels like he'd like for it to be gone. So when that happens, it may be more likely than not that it will be gone. All right, another agenda item to keep our eyes on, the potential reseeding of the NFL playoffs, not just giving division winners home field advantage, but teams with the best record. What can you tell us the thinking may be about this proposal?
This was proposed by the Detroit Lions, which is interesting because they weren't, they didn't actually benefit from this in any way besides just winning their division and getting a home game last year. But the Vikings lost, despite having a 14-3 record, they lost their division and then were bumped down to the 5 seed and had to go on the road, played in Arizona, but played the Rams in a wild card game. And it obviously went as it went. The thought is that, hey, let's reward the teams in the conference with the best record. Division winner still gets in automatically, but for that home game, let's reward those teams. Now, I've talked to a lot of owners. I've talked to a lot of team presidents. I don't know if there's enough juice to change this right now. They're going to need to get 24 votes out of 32 teams. I just simply don't know if there's enough votes and enough of an urgency to change this. Again, owners love the opportunity of parity, and owners love the opportunity of every year they have a 1 in 4 chance of hosting a playoff game. Now, the Browns haven't hosted a playoff game since 95. The Jets haven't hosted a game since 2003, but hope springs eternal. And when you're selling season tickets and you could tell the fans that, hey, there is a chance you're going to have a home playoff game, even if we don't have the best record in the league, I think there is something to that. So I'm a little skeptical this thing gets passed.
You're saying there's a chance, maybe a small one for those teams. All right, let's talk about the potential conversations around the NFL and flag football in the Olympics. What do we expect there?
Yeah, the NFL, I worked for the league office for 9 years on NFL Network. There is nothing that they're higher on right now than flag football. And they were very instrumental in working with the IOC to make flag football an Olympic sport. Question now is, though, do we get NFL players involved? I don't know about that. The owners have to be convinced. Imagine there was a catastrophic injury. I'm thinking of Edwin Diaz in the World Baseball Classic shredding his knee. Imagine that actually, God forbid, happened to one of these NFL players before training camp because they were doing flag football against Turks and Caicos or Latvia or Lithuania. It would be a nightmare. I don't know if the owners who pay these players